Yeah! Right, so we'll usually try and do this for 10 seconds, right? I've got no energy to do 10 seconds of this. Welcome to Green Sunrise Podcast. Today, yet again, this episode today is going to be absolutely outstanding because we have two special guests and we have the same co-host from the last time. We have Brian Mitchell. Welcome back again, Brian.
It's great to be back. Another episode, absolutely brilliant. I should add, we're going to talk some football tonight. We've just been playing football.
Yes.
Hence the reason the two's a little bit washed out.
Yes, playing football. We turned up. We turned up tonight.
And it wasn't walking football before any of you see it. We were actually trying to run.
It was quite sweaty. But look, I'm going to take you to our first two guests. Gaby, McKay. Is that right? Gaby McKay?
Gaby McKay.
Sorry, yeah. Gaby McKay. I just asked him as well just before that. Gabriel McKay. Is a journalist for the Herald, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And thank you for coming along, first of all.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. And I've got no excuse for looking washed out because I wasn't playing football.
No, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to this. But the big star of the show is Federico Martone. Federico, thank you so much for taking this invite, mate.
That is...
We've been talking for a wee while, haven't we?
You've been in my DMs.
Yes.
For several months now. Some of the pictures you sent me are wholly inappropriate. So the only way I could put an end to it was to come here. You know?
They brought Brian as well.
Federico, can I just say, but we have been hunting John Tickle.
Tickle?
Yeah,
John Tickle here.
Yes.
Centrica Management.
Yeah,
He's not dead.
Nicer based analyst. If he's dead, he's still posting on his social.
Alright, I'm thinking of somebody else then.
you think the Mr. Tickle? From the Mr.
Yeah, that's it.
Maybe he passed away.
Exactly. Mr. Tickle was probably a bit more entertaining, but
JT's great.
Aye, and yet he never won it, but I think he got a good level of fame. He was out, I think was
he
out
had
before
Brainiac
you.
That he was doing with Vic Reed. We went out at the same time. There was God, we're talking about Big Brother. I thought we were going to talk about football.
No, we are.
We talk about everything. Come on.
But that's how we know you.
No, I forget. I've got a daughter now, and she'll come back. She said like such and such Googled me, and I go, shit, I did do that. and then I write columns, and I always write columns when it starts for like reality TV. Like, what kind of fucking idiot would do something like this? And it's me. I'm that fucking idiot. So would do something like
that's
that.
A question. So what is it you're up to now? What are you doing?
Mate, I was in the city centre of Glasgow for years in the family businesses with restaurants.
Right.
And I had mixed success with that. My brother and my father are far more they're far more hard working than me. So they do much better than that. So I was helping out. I used to work with Gaby at Football Italia, Gaby. Sorry, Gaby.
Sorry, don't worry about it.
It's because, as I said, he supersedes Gabriel Marcotti in every way, you know. And it's literary prowess, don't you?
I don't think so.
And
It's your Sunday name. I'm going to call you the Archangel.
That's fine. Go for it. I've been called worse.
So I write sort of for the odd online football publications. I've done stuff for the Daily Record, the Scottish Sun, up until I was reviewing TV for the Daily Record and we were back and just getting by, just barely surviving above ground.
Well, you're looking good. So
thank you.
And you get Valentino sliders.
Valentino sliders on.
Yeah.
But I call them flip-flops.
Flip-flops.
I still say flip-flops. And they were £28 at a TK Maxx.
It was £25 before we started, so it's crept up.
No, they were
TK Maxx.
They were 28.
What sponsor Green Sunrise Podcast? TK Maxx.
There's
a wee plug for you.
Thank you for that. If TK Maxx.
TK Maxx, if they want to sponsor us, and I'll do another trolley dash, you know.
That takes us to our sponsors today. Our sponsors today are Oops a Daisy from Bishopbriggs. They're sponsoring today's show. And also Beyond Entertainment is also taking part of sponsoring the show. So thank you so much to Beyond Entertainment first of all. And
Oops a Daisy Florist.
I mean, the lassie's good, isn't she?
Is it a florist Oops a Daisy, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bishopbriggs, yeah.
Bishopbriggs Oops a Daisy.
Can I just say she married well?
Yeah,
she did
marry very well, you know.
Evidently.
So,
the first time.
Hence the reason the husband's no hair left, but there we go. She's doing well with the flippers. And, she also chips into this. Man. I think she does it to get me out of the house, to be perfectly honest.
Aye, so she's paid for this.
Say, Paul, here, there's a wee...
Well, this dispels the notion that all florists are like just fronts for the heaviest gangsters in the city, you know?
No. The heaviest husbands.
Dessert shops, the heaviest husbands. Dessert shops are everything. It's like where did all these dessert shops come from?
We in Bishop Briggs there's a nail war.
There's a dessert shop right
allegedly. Might not think me, but nail wars are nail war shops and all that.
But it's funny you say dessert shop because the dessert shop's just opened up right across the road from the florist.
Everywhere.
Well,
With various Armenians and Albanians going in and out with.
Well, I don't know. I can never get in. It's that busy. You can never.
With deep V-necks.
Deep V-necks.
Is it because you're from Italian? Extra. You're ice cream.
Italians are always
ice creamers.
Come to Britain and we'll open up ice cream parlours like at Sorrento, the Amalfi Coast, or it'll be like the middle of Rome, and all the basically over the years because of the climate. There'll be no mystery to anyone, although it is a bit subtropical for the past 3 weeks or something, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's to be like this for now.
Pretty sure there's going to be an alien mothership. It'll be like,
it's gonna
3 kilometres of it, and we'll just look at the underbelly.
It's been hot to talk.
Gaby, you're up for a Scottish Press Award tomorrow night, I understand.
Yeah, that's true.
Very prestigious.
Wow, he's a clap for the outside.
Well, that's all right.
We'll be embarrassed about getting his name wrong very, very soon.
Oh, no, they actually got my name wrong on the nomination. They spelled my second name wrong, so they did fix it. I should point out in case they see this.
McKay, is it Mackie?
Yeah, they spelled it MACK. Well, I think there's Neil McKay, who's a colleague of mine, who's also nominated. I think they just
John McKay.
And there's John McKay.
My name is John McKay.
There's a golden retriever on the M8.
So we're going to talk about me. So I said me and you have been in the DMs and we've been talking about let's try and do a podcast together.
We don't have to go too.
We don't have to go. No, we wouldn't do that. No. Obviously,
we're a liberal podcast as well.
It's after 9 o'clock, so we might be able to do something.
Liberal is the word.
But we're speaking about, we're going to do something tonight on football, right? The Champions League final that is coming up.
I think some good bro dad football chat is in order before.
Yeah, I think so.
Before the showcase finals, and then because Gaby and I are so into European hipster soccer football, where we try and pretend we don't watch anything Scottish, although he is a Kelly fan, to be honest.
True.
That's all right. I've got family.
See, I seen one of your articles is at the Daily Record where you advertised yourself as coming from the Republic of Kilmarnock.
The People's Republic of Kilmarnock.
The last People's Republic.
I like that a lot.
So we're going to talk about some. What we're going to talk about? We're talking about Mourinho, a bit of dark Mourinho.
We were talking magical. You and I were talking about the cult of Jose, and if he's leaned into his own personality so much that Gaby was saying to me, when it became a Shakespearean tragedy.
Yes.
It's like, and it is like that. Like there were years where I thought he was hilarious in a way. He was like the ultimate troll.
The special one was always the
self-styled special one.
The self-styled special one. I used to get in for it was Sundays, Sky Sports, and you'd go, right, let's wait for these. I mean, apart from the fact most Celtic fans hated them for what he'd done to us in that final, right?
That's it.
But I loved them. I
loved watching them.
I loved them.
I liked them as well.
I mean,
we're all past tense here, so
yeah. I loved him. It's just when I'm a fan of Manchester United, Celtic and Manchester United. It's since
do you remember when he ran up the touchline when Porto got the winner?
So at that time, as well as the Celtic thing, I was like, and then he done that. But when he came to Chelsea and he was a direct competition, obviously he was
box office.
He always, spoke about his admiration.
I think then, he had that charisma. If you watch his press conferences back then, he had them eating out of his hand, the special one that he talked about.
Well, remember he named his team at a press conference.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And he named the Barcelona team as well the day before. I think then he really had that kind of rock star charisma.
I always remember that American Express advert where he's like walking outside. It was him and De Niro were doing American Express adverts, and he's just like, puts an umbrella up, then it starts raining about 10 seconds later, and that was his persona.
That was his persona, yeah.
And he was bloody handsome. Have you ever seen him at Barcelona when he was Robson's interpreter?
Yeah, there's a famous photo of him and Pep sitting together, yeah.
I was shagged him myself, to be quite honest.
So what happened? What happened the other night? I never see. I've watched. So yeah, from the final.
He's just not done it with a glint in the eye. There's no charisma, and it's like, I say the cult of Mourinho because it's like everyone on the bench is just so invested in this charade that put it this way, when they played Sevilla, I was like, normally I would lean towards hoping an Italian team might win. Yeah. I was very, very happy that Sevilla beat Roma.
Seriously?
Very, very,
so you were happy with that?
But I do think Sevilla joined in the dark arts and gave as good as they got eventually. But I think there could have been a game of football if he was allowed it to break out. And then there's just been various things that Mourinho's been saying in terms of he went a bit Donny Brasco and said, I have to wear a wire to protect myself from referees.
It kept running out. It kept running out for a dugout. Every single decision had a wee 10-yard sprint every single time, and it was for the most petty.
Oh, he would do it over anything. But and the thing is, everyone that was flanking him on the bench was exactly the same. There was no voice of reason, you know. There was no one saying, "Hold on a minute." Like, it's all right saying the referee's against us. The referee, like, trying to put was maybe trying to paint him in the, and was it Frisk, the referee?
Anders Frisk,
that denied Chelsea that time. And the referee's performance wasn't that bad, honestly. When you analyse it,
a lot to deal with as well. Like as we said, a lot of dark arts.
The almost impossible job was made completely impossible that night.
I love the fact that Lazio fans have made this English referee an honorary member of their supporters club.
You know they famously when Man United beat Roma 7-1, they sent Alex Ferguson 7 crates of wine from Italy, then with a note saying like congratulations.
That's a derby and a half, Lazio.
Oh, that went to one. It was a civil war.
Honestly. I mean, that was the height
take a family.
That was the height of Italian football for me. See, when it was Gazzetta on a Sunday. Yeah, I loved Italian football then. Before my dad was a big John Charles fan, so he always had
you get on with my dad.
He always had an affinity for
Siveri and John Charles Juventus.
Juventus, and then Liam Brady when he went for Arsenal. Always loved Inter Milan.
And Juve.
He scored a penalty. Was it for?
He scored a penalty for Juventus to win the league when they'd already told him he was going to be sold, and they were bringing in Michel Platini, and he scored the penalty that won them the league, despite knowing that would be his last game for them.
An upgrade, mind.
How many foreign players were you allowed then? 2?
I think just 2.
Just 2, and. Platini, but Brady was brilliant as well.
Because they already had Boniek, I think, and they were getting Platini, so because of the foreign players rule, they had to get rid of one of them, and Brady was obviously the one.
2 teams that I loved was obviously Maradona. I mean, that will tell you, I just love Maradona. And that Sampdoria team that won.
Yeah.
With
Mancini, Vialli.
And
Lombardo, Virkvid.
Guys like Virkvid.
Mikhailichenko that ended up at Rangers.
That's right, aye.
That's right. Baggio was mine. I loved Baggio. Roberto Baggio.
The divine ponytail.
Yes.
What could have been as well. If we had 2 knees, imagine how good it would have been.
Some penalty miss.
I got a good one with Liam Brady. Do you ever remember the Archie McPherson sports show Sport in Question?
Oh, I remember it.
So they used to be in Cambridge Street when STV was based in Cowcaddens. And my dad used to have a restaurant called cheesy now you think back, but called Pavarotti Trattoria, right? And they had a private room in the background, so they would film it. And if you think about the budget, I mean, if you tune into like a Scottish TV production now, I used to go into the restaurant and I met Johan Cruyff, Gary Lineker, Henry Cooper. Like, I was just like, who's who? Like Jim Watt was there. Jim Watt became pals with my dad and stuff like that. My dad would always be in the audience and be like, I was saying to Rocco the other night, you get a draw in Italy, you need to knock a guy out. And it was like cut to my dad, and they'd be talking about Gigi Lentini when he went to Milan, and he'd be like, everything, costs more in Italy, so don't worry, they've got enough money. It was just like, that was his heyday. And so he was there to get back to the tangential point I'm making is Liam Brady was there one night, and it's the night he was strangling Jerry McNee, voice of a football.
Is that right?
Yeah. And he was like, my dad was the bouncer. Yeah.
Wow.
And he said, like, the week after that, Ken Bates was like telling him to fuck off because his wine was shit and stuff like that. It was good. It was good fun times,
Oh, great. I think the biggest mistake for me that Italian football ever made was the 1990 World Cup when they had the semi-final against Maradona's Argentina.
In Naples.
I think
every game was in Rome before that.
Is it Bergamo was the captain?
Bergami.
Bergami, yeah.
And he seen a documentary and him saying he'll never forgive the people of Naples because when they came out the tunnel it was just Diego.
Yeah. Before the game, like that, if you've seen the Diego Maradona documentary,
it's
marvellous.
That's amazing.
It's amazing.
I was like, I want to see it because I've got El Diego, and I was like, it's going to be overkill when it's going to. Because it didn't paint. It painted the right picture because I always say, like, Maradona's the greatest player I've ever seen, and I rate him better than Messi. I rate him because he played in potato fields against people that were trying to kill him.
I keep arguing with a certain son of mine.
They could decapitate him. Right? He was playing on these boys are off camera, right? But there was like they had no protection. zero protection. That's why his bones were broken. And also, I say to everyone as well, can you imagine Ronaldo and Messi on a Sunday getting on the gear for 4 days, right? Training twice before the next match, how good they would be.
Yeah.
There's no fucking way to be as good as Maradona, right? So Diego, what he done, but I always say he's kind of like he's like a gargoyle that fell off a cathedral, Maradona, you know? He's a shapeshifter. When you watched what he was doing for Napoli in those years, he was doing stuff that defied logic. It was, there was something about it. It was just like, he galvanised this city, and the irony is they've won it again this year. But until before and until now, Napoli never achieved anything.
Yeah. And
this
if you
guy
go to
elevated
Naples,
them,
I mean, you'll know yourself. If you go to Naples, I mean, the minute you get off the train, there'll be like pictures of Maradona. There's Barnilo, I think, has a shrine with literally 3 of his hairs in it, in a vial.
Is that right?
Yeah, I promise, it's called Barnilo. You can go there.
Is it true they've got a statue of him in the graveyard?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen that, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, it was basically saying for all those who missed.
Yeah.
Maradona.
Yeah, well,
so
that's in the film. Someone puts graffiti outside the graveyard, obviously when they win the title, and then someone puts the graffiti outside the graveyard. You've no idea what you missed.
You've got no idea.
Graffiti, I always thought it was a statue.
Napoli fans are notorious. They're kind of like maybe somewhere between the Liverpool or Celtic fans of Italy, just because of the nature of Napoli being. If you've ever been here, it's like the Wild Wild West. You know, one time I went in and my car broke down in August. And they told me it'd be ready in September, and it was like the 3rd of August because they were just, it's Ferragosto, you know, it's like you're not going to see anyone. So there's a really good one where Hellas Verona, which is historically where there's like, well, maybe like a lot of the northern aristocracy and historically speaking, some of the snobbery in the north would start maybe a bit more south than Hellas, but they would typify that. So Napoli would go up and they would be treated like they would say big signs saying "Welcome to Africa," welcome to Italy, Africans, benvenuti in Italia, you know, and they would be calling them like ants and stuff like that. So it would always be like some kind of banner saying, welcome to Italy, right? Which is because they're saying you're not in Italy. And then brilliantly, it became the title of a book. They went the reverse fixture. Verona go down to Napoli, and their banner is Giulietta è una Troia. Juliet is a whore, right? Because like Romeo and Juliet, which is just daft.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah? Just pure daftness. You know?
Who's your team? Who's your team?
I like Atalanta.
Atalanta?
From
I like
Bergamo.
Atalanta. Yeah. That's it.
Lovely city, Bergamo.
I've
as
been
well,
in
by the way.
Bergamo.
Yeah.
I've been in Bergamo.
Very cool stadium. Overlooks the mountains.
They've just kind of rebuilt it as well, like
dinky, small.
Yeah, but it was. I mean, so the first time I ever went there was when they were halfway through rebuilding it, and I went and bought the cheapest ticket I could, which was basically on a building site. So they had 3 really nice stands that they'd finished, and I was in this one. Yeah. Oh, it was open to the way. It was about January. It's in the mountains. Oh, I've never been so cold in my life. There was these obviously school kids had gone, and they'd like had their teachers there, and they were having to take them home because they were shivering and crying. But it was an experience.
Is a skiing area as well, is it not?
Yeah, it's an affluent area. Yeah, very much so. That's where the industry in Italy is in the north. You know, that's where these big divides and all the stuff that we were talking about just there. So people in the south, they will just often buy into all these kind of persecution complexes and conspiracy theories that Jose Mourinho loves to feed into with that part of the Italian psyche too. So that's why, in many ways, the kind of Rome is a.
So it's like Celtic fans.
Very so. We dominated Scottish football for 20 years and still saying they're persecuted.
We're not as paranoid as we used to be. It's always if
No.
But Celtic got a billionaire owner, eh?
Yeah.
I know. Well, I
got a billionaire owner.
I saw one the other day. Obviously,
we were
it's funny.
persecuted for 100 years. So
It's funny from a Kilmarnock fan perspective. I think it was either when Celtic wrapped up the treble or they wrapped up the league, and I saw somebody tweeting like, "Oh, days like this just make the hard times worth it." And I'm going, "What hard times? You've won 10 of the last 11 league titles. You've not had any hard times."
Oh, believe you me, there were hard times.
Lou McCarry.
And Liam Brady. I shouldn't even say I like Liam Brady. I forgot about that.
Tell you to watch a team managed by Gary Locke. I don't want to hear anything about hard times.
But here's a conspiracy with Kilmarnock. If you're a Celtic fan, Celtic were after Gordon Smith, and they made a bid of £100,000, and Kilmarnock said that they wanted more money, and Celtic wouldn't pay any more money, and then Rangers come in and bought for £100,000. So ever since then, Kilmarnock have been accused of they don't like Celtic, they're part of the conspiracy.
Right, okay. Which is weird because Rangers fans also really don't like Kilmarnock, especially after the sort of Steve Clarke times when we used to beat them quite a lot. So it's yeah.
Would you like Steve Clarke as your new Celtic manager?
I mean, for me, with football managers, it's always hit and miss.
And I don't think he'd be accepted by Celtic fans because because his style of play. I mean, even though he's now started to crack it with Scotland, he's started to get really good.
Stay exactly where he is.
But
stay exactly where he is.
I think he's already come out and said he would never manage Celtic or Rangers because
nobody knew who Wim Jansen was.
Yeah,
I remember coming off. I was in holiday with my pals, and it was Jared Touré. It was Bobby Robson. When we were just packing up to leave, and the Sunday Mail, then it was like 2 days late or something when you got it. So it was Bobby Robson. Then we got on the plane and we got a free Daily Mail or Daily Express, and it was Gerard Houllier, who we found out like years later that Jock Brown actually went and met him and said, "Would you be interested in coming?"
Jock Brown, these are great names. This is funny.
And Fergus McCann won it, Jock Brown did.
Gerard Houllier just told him what Liverpool had offered, and Jock Brown said he just been like, "Well, would you mind if we just finish lunch then?"
And you can pay.
And so Wim Jansen came in with a headline of one of your former employers, the Daily Record, the worst thing ever to hit Hiroshima, because he had managed in
he would not get away with that these days.
Right?
Jesus.
And no idea.
Surely there is one more thing that's hit Hiroshima that's even worse than
exactly.
that. You know?
Right.
So
exactly. And so again, woke up, it's this guy Wim Jansen. They were like, who? And just to give you a wee bit of background, how much I actually know about football is that people always go about, he signed Henrik Larsson, and Henrik Larsson made a catastrophic error at Easter Road. But it was the week after when they get bet 2-1 at home to Dunfermline. People were just like, right, that's it, done. Rangers are 10 in a row. We've lost the first two again. And I uttered the legendary words to my friends, that guy Larsson is terrible. But that Reggie Blinker looks a player. So... Really,
there is absolutely no one who could have predicted what Larsson became.
Well, we could debunk the Kilmarnock theory here because Celtic, when they stopped 10 in a row, it was partially because Kilmarnock won at Ibrox with an Ali Mitchell goal in about the 97th minute of stoppage time, because the referee, who was allegedly of a Rangers persuasion, it was one each, so he just added on loads and loads of time, and then Ali Mitchell scored.
I think that's an Italian. I mean, it's like Italian corruption, because have you ever heard a referee requested a game because it was going to be his last ever game? I mean, that is just
highly suspect. Highly suspect. A great fact about Wim Jansen, he just died, didn't he? Wim Jansen, did he pass away?
Yeah, passed away.
Last year. He was the Feyenoord captain when they beat Celtic in 1970.
In the
European Cup final.
Yeah, and I think he played for Holland in the 74
World Cup. Yeah. But
I don't know if he played in the 78, because I think Archie Gemmell might have nutmegged him. I'll need to check that.
I don't know about the 78 World Cup, but it's quite funny when you look back at how Celtic lost that in 1970, because I've got some Celtic fans in the family, and they pretty much assumed the role that Inter did against them, but Inter totally underestimated Celtic. There's great pictures, like there was a documentary that was on BBC Scotland, and it was like Jimmy Johnson going like, we were all just looking at these big Adonises, and we're like, we need to put we need to get the favours money to put our falsters in it, and you can imagine what they were thinking, man. Just looking at them for shouting, and just like these big 6'1" guys, oiled down, and they were looking at these wee guys born in the East End of Glasgow, and they totally underestimated them.
Yep.
And I think, and I do, like my Uncle Jim would say to me, he said that basically what happened at Feyenoord is they thought there's no way we can lose to Feyenoord.
Not just Feyenoord, but Dutch football just took off then, because Ajax didn't win the Cup, was it 2 or 3 times or something?
Round about then they started winning it, didn't they? There was a final against Milan in '69, I think.
Yeah, and Yeah, they beat Juventus in one of the finals as well, didn't they? Because it was when the sort of total football was coming in and everyone who they were playing against was still man marking. So all their players are moving about and just dragging people everywhere. And obviously the teams at that time...
The one that Pep Guardiola invented?
The one that Pep Guardiola invented, yeah.
I always thought, like, you're talking about teams underestimating opponents when Borussia Dortmund beat Juventus.
Yeah.
I thought Juventus were really guilty of that night.
Oh, unbelievably.
Yeah. Well, it would have been I mean, I think the final was in Rome and it was the 100th anniversary for Juventus because it was 1997. So I think they just thought, like, well, come on, it's meant to be. We're at home in Italy.
That team was unbelievable.
Yeah.
You had Zidane, Paulo Sousa. Del Piero was injured, came on and scored that great goal before Lars Ricken. But I remember we were all watching it and Sir Baconface of Govan himself, Alex Ferguson, because they'd put out United beat them twice in the way to the final, and they basically were doing a preview before it on STV. And he came up with, he says, I've looked at this game every way possible, from every angle, and there's absolutely no way Juventus can lose this match. Because he was still annoyed because Dortmund had put Man U out in the semis, remember?
Yes.
And it wasn't a great... Regardless of what guys like Paul Lambert will say now about how it was like they were the aristocrats or anything, they weren't. Like it was a really, like you said, like the Juventus team was supposed to beat that Dortmund team.
Yeah. I mean, the Borussia Dortmund team beat Manchester United convincingly, I have to say, especially at Old Trafford. I mean, they really done a number on Manchester United that night. They're really impressive how organised they were. Your stereotypical German team. But yeah, that night, I think
Zidane was supposed to. Zidane hit the post early. Vieri had a goal chopped off, but Dortmund deserved to win. And it was like Ricken scored this goal. Lars Ricken before he's basically like we're talking about Napoli with no wonder. What did Lars Ricken do after that?
Yeah,
but same as Götze in the World Cup final, just like going.
Aye. What's the idea? You were saying you've got an idea that you're going to come up with something about
we were bouncing about some stuff about doing a European review podcast. There's a few things like on radio that I've liked in the past, and I would like to try and replicate doing it. And there's a couple of contacts I could get maybe, but could get a couple of Italian footballers over Skype and stuff like that to talk. But and also guys from this neck of the woods as well.
Aye, yeah. So the Champions League final is this Saturday, isn't it? Is it this Saturday? Predictions. No, we're just talking. You were talking about there about teams that were kind of untouchable and they could never get beat, right? So according to when I'm reading reports, it's like Man City are going to win this, right? But you could never rule out Inter Milan.
Well, if you listen to the English media,
I think
they've already won it by beating Manchester United. The final hurdle in the historic treble. Right? Well, there's a lot. Just like this is the game.
I'm already saying novenas, rosaries, lighting candles that Manchester City don't do it. You know, I
think Inter are about 6-1 at the bookies as well, which for a one-off game in a final is insane odds.
It's insane.
Yeah.
If you take, I think a great bet this week if we're going to do tips is to put an Inter Fiorentina double. As well if it's worth a fiver, because the bookies have got West Ham favourites over Fiorentina, and I don't see them as being favourites over Fiorentina at all. Just the bias of a lot of UK based bookmakers.
Yeah. And to be fair, there'll be a lot of people as well in the UK will be betting on the English team, so that'll affect the odds as well. But
exactly.
I mean, I always used to laugh when Rangers used to be in the Champions League, the early stage, and they would say Rangers are 8-1 favourites to win the Champions League, and I used to say, yeah. But in Germany and Italy, they're 500 to 1. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Buster Douglas.
Wow. Yeah. But I think then Mike Tyson was indulging in a bit of the Diego Maradona product.
If you watch, there's a
40-41, isn't it?
Yeah, the ESPN 30 for 30 documentaries. There's one on that fight. It was brilliant. Like
Tokyo Douglas.
Yeah, and he like his dad died just like a week before the fight or something. No, it was his mum. Sorry, yeah, but it was. It's a really good documentary. It's on Disney Plus if you've got that. It's really
fantastic. I was actually more impressed with Buster Douglas when he was on the WWE. If you ever
we were talking about the WWE before you guys arrived. Actually,
oh, my kids love that.
Yeah, I lived for a specific era of it, and I never watched it in years. But when it was Razor Ramon and
the NWO and
the NWO, Ultimate Warrior,
Hulk Hogan, all that. Legion of Doom.
Occasionally, I'll just go into a wormhole on YouTube where I get lost in like vignettes from that era and stuff.
Macho Man.
Oh yeah! And you just watch these guys, man, and I'm sorry, but look at the fucking docs that are doing it now. Look at these guys. Well, compared to then. Obviously, the amount of gear they were on as well was amping their personalities.
My two boys and my wife is Nick Matic are going to Wembley to see the EW. And that's good stuff. CM Punk is back in that, any other CM Punk, and it's good stuff, you know. But I mean, nowhere near my politics. But I have to admit, have you ever seen? It was the time of the Gulf War. Hulk Hogan coming down with the biggest stars and stripes you've ever seen. He's fighting Sergeant Slaughter. And he comes out and, you know, the American crowd's going crazy and he's coming out, you know, and it was brilliant stuff, man. I watch it, it's just magic stuff, you know.
So much of the stuff for that era, like, you know, is it Rocky IV with Drago or is it Rocky III?
That's right,
you know?
Rocky IV.
Cold War commentary, you know.
Well, I mean, it's not as bad
the
as
Soviet drugged up and stuff like
well,
that.
the thing is, the first Rambo film ends with a dedication to the Mujahideen.
Second one.
The second one, yeah. Like, you know, like the brave Mujahideen fighters of Afghanistan.
Freedom fighters.
Yeah, exactly. So.
A few years later.
Yeah, exactly.
The axis of evil.
Talking about the dark arts of Italian football, I mean, just thinking about in 1967, Celtic won a European Cup, obviously. Rangers were in a European final.
Kilmarnock were in a European semi-final.
That was you stole my line there.
Sorry. Well, I thought you were gonna breeze by it, and I couldn't allow that to happen.
Like it's Celtic fans.
You know, the power of Scottish football then, and then the 80s.
United?
Yeah.
With Roma?
And that was obviously
if you try
Roma
and
were
explain
bride.
this to the kids, they're like...
Roma bride the officials.
Allegedly, yeah. Subsequently, there's been another Roma director said that did happen.
Yeah, well, I think one of them, the son of the president at the time, I think, said it did happen. Some of them said it didn't happen. I actually wrote an article about this once, and I spoke to Paul Hegarty for it, and he said that he thought we just didn't play well enough on the night.
Richard Goss said that they were good enough to beat us as well. Like,
yeah, and there was some. I think it's something that got lost in translation, but
I believe.
Yeah, the first leg that blanking his name, Dundee United manager who punched the reporter, Jim McLean. Yes. So he'd said something like, I don't know what my boys were on tonight, and apparently the Italians took that as like him saying that they were doped. Which obviously wasn't what he meant, but I think something got lost in translation.
I was talking about how Jose Mourinho and Roma are made for each other.
Yeah.
It's like the perfect marriage. But when you try and explain to I've got a few guys that go to school with my daughter and stuff like that, and they come out and they talk to you about Haaland, they all talk about Cristiano Ronaldo, and I can't be dealing with kids always obsessed with Cristiano Ronaldo because there was so many great players, and I think he steals far too much of the oxygen from everyone. But when you tell them you had Scottish football teams, multiple Scottish football teams, not just Celtic and Rangers, you had Aberdeen beat Real Madrid in the Cup Winners' Cup final.
An incredible performance.
And there's a brilliant. Did you ever see that? Have you seen One Night? Is it One Night in Gothenburg?
Yeah, it was
Malmo. Was it Malmo?
It was Gothenburg. Yeah.
But One Night in Gothenburg, and there was a brilliant story. It was Alex Ferguson says, I took Big Jock with me because I knew Jock's team was a man with all the experience. There'd be no one better to take. And he said it was basically Stephen was giving him pointers the whole time. And he's like, see Di Stefano was the Real Madrid manager. Alfredo Di Stefano says, when we get to the grand reception hotel, I've got a really good bottle of whiskey here. Di Stefano loves whiskey. Give him that. And he's like, give him a bottle of whiskey. We think we're fucking amateurs. He went, exactly, son.
I just
right.
That's like pure
false sense of security.
That's like pure old school Glasgow socialist psychology. Isn't it? You know, like they're going to underestimate us.
On that run, I mean, I remember Aberdeen beating. It was I still think it was their best performance, their two best performances when they put it by a minute. I thought they were terrific. But we should add Celtic supporters. Aberdeen may have won the Cup Winners' Cup, but they weren't even the best team in Scotland.
Oh my!
We can go down so many.
Forever oppressed.
I stole that line. I've just stole that line. I stole that line off David Provan, who wrote it in his Sunday Mail article.
David, what's ever happened to David Provan?
He did he not have an illness though, David Provan?
I played with Kilmarnock.
Yes.
You've set that up. Fair enough, I'll give you that one.
Aye. Andy was a Rangers supporter, but that's by the by. He made up for that for his 9-10 years at Celtic.
There's been a good few of those, you know, hasn't there? slip through the net. You know, I mean, I don't know. I'm no expert on it, but I've heard about Dalglish. I've heard about Jock himself and stuff like that. I don't know. But not that it means anything anyway. You know, not now.
A guy who's been linked, and again, it's not about Celtic, but a guy who's been linked with Celtic, which has come out of the blue. Rafa Benitez. Is he kicking about somewhere? Is he playing? I mean, if somebody.
He was in China, but I don't know if he's still there.
If you wanted to take the most expansive high press in the world and then totally invert it and make it utterly defunct and obsolete, then give it to Rafa Benitez.
Also, I mean, surely they couldn't afford the wages he'd be asking for. You know, he's been on China money, he's been on Premier League money. I mean,
he's another manager where he sees things as a project. But Celtic, I don't know if you remember, but before they get Martin O'Neill, they were all ready to get Gus Hiddink, and it was like...
That would have been a great one.
It was like a done deal. And Willie Hawkins, Alan McDonald, I think his name was, he was the chief executive, went over to meet him in Spain. I think it was at Betis at the time. Okay. And it was like, yep, done deal. But they wanted, obviously, Dermot Desmond to step in. And Dermot Desmond met him, and he didn't like the way he was talking. You know, it was about a project and a year.
The philosophy of this.
So he basically said no, and then a few days later he took the Celtic directors to meet in a hotel in London, and he walked in with Martin O'Neill. That's your new manager. Fair enough.
And that's it. And I think that one went fairly well for me.
I saw Martin O'Neill. I was at the Scottish Football Writers Awards. I wasn't nominated for anything there. I'm not. This isn't a plug for myself. But he did the after dinner speech, and he was talking about how he was always accused of showing this favouritism towards Henrik Larsson, and he said no, but there was one week I did go for him. We were playing Dundee United, and he just kept flicking the ball around the corner. I was like, Henrik, you need to hold on to the ball. And he's like, well, I play what I see. I don't want you to play what you see. I want you to play what I see. And he did this, and then he said, Larsson turned to his mate Albi, and they started speaking in Swedish, and all I heard was O'Neill, and then Swedish, and then like this sort of thing. And he said, and I did what any self-respecting manager would do. I subbed me Albi.
Yeah.
We had some stories for you at Alan Thompson night, didn't we? About
Martin Alan Thompson, that was very good. But I'm looking forward to going and talking to about Aberdeen. I'm at Manchester United. I'm going to see a night with, and we should plug our good friend of Green Sunrise Podcast, Paul John Dykes.
Oh, of course.
I don't know if you know
Paul John Dykes.
I know the name, yeah.
You know.
He does a Celtic State of Mind. But he's great nights for me anyway, as I went to see Alan McKay, Sean Ryder. He sets up fantastic nights. So you really should.
Ryan McClare's been doing the Manchester United nights, hasn't he? Became
his podcast is absolutely wonderful.
You love it, don't you?
Oh, it's great.
I've still to hear it.
It's brilliant because with Brian McClare, basically he doesn't get tickets. He's got a season ticket for Celtic. He doesn't get tickets off Manchester United. He just pays his own way. That's his philosophy. And he didn't just play for Manchester United. He's a youth coach as well.
Very good centre forward.
And his podcast, I mean, he'll talk probably more about the Jesus Mary chain, and the Jam, as much as football. And some of the podcast interviews have just been fantastic, but they've been more about just life, funny stories, and his podcast are excellent. Yeah. He's got him and Pat. He says the only person that he knows that's got a better vinyl collection than him is Pat Evan.
Yeah.
Because Pat Evan made sure that when he was a player, he ingratiated himself with anybody that was involved in a record company, ideally an independent record company, so he could
because it's the whole story of footballers want to be rock stars and rock stars want to be footballers.
The only time I've ever met Pat Nevin, he was sitting next to me in the Hampden press room, and how on brand is this? He was watching Serie A highlights, and then he was talking to someone about how he'd picked up some Polish hitchhikers on the way, and he was going to see Fat White Family the next day. I swear to God, it's just vintage Pat Nevin. Yeah, exactly.
His brother was a school teacher in my secondary school, and his brother was just as outlandish, shall we say. His brother Michael was outlandish was terrific, absolutely terrific.
He was another one. I used to go and see my dad in Pavarotti Trattoria. Right. My dad was always like slag off what football players say. They fucking eat lasagnas and stuff like that. Believe it or not, in Italian, if you go into a restaurant and order lasagna, they will be laughing at you, your waiter.
Right.
Is that right?
If you don't eat fish or meat, they're like, what the fuck? Who are these?
Well, I'm a vegetarian, and I've got a friend, Mario Malotti, and he's a big AC Milan fan, and they come from just somewhere outside Milan. That's terrible. I've known the guy for like 25 years. And not being homophobic in the slightest here, please believe me. But when I told him that, when I was vegetarian, this is when I was like 30 years ago, he says, do you know where, my dad's from in Italy? And when I go, if you said you were a vegetarian, he would say, are you homosexual?
Yeah.
That would be qualifier for it. That's the only leap of logic. It's so true.
And I was in Paris one time, and I was trying to explain to this waiter, can't speak a word, can hardly speak English, never mind French or Italian. And
French people can all speak English, they just pretend they can.
Yeah. So I eventually said to this waiter, I do not eat meat. So that was fine. So he brought me pork over. And I'm like, that
will be in it. Like, I've taken 2 girlfriends to Italy who are both vegetarian, and it's just like a process. Mama, I don't see manjaka. You don't eat meat, but fish you can eat. And they're like, no, a chicken you can eat. No, we don't eat meat. And they were like, they're basically like, you're going to get better, you'll get through this. It's like it's an affliction. They'll say one day you'll get past all this. They can't believe it.
Can I just also, if you're looking at me, remember Gorillas are vegetarian as well. And when you just eat dairy produce because they're no vegans, and pizzas, calzone, and red wine. And Guinness.
Say they're vegetarian that just eat pickled onion crisps and coke, don't they?
Bags of pickled onion crisps. Football. We'll talk about football memes. What's your favourite football kind of?
There's been a lot this year in terms of like we were saying that I love everything that happened at Napoli this year. To bring it back to them, how they took this Kvaratskhelia kid who was displaced because of the war and went back from Rubin Kazan to Georgia for relative peanuts. What was the fee, Gabe? 7 million?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
And
so he's Euros as well, so
he's
about 5
a plus 100 million player now. He's getting the ball in the halfway line, and it's like watching George Best clips on YouTube. It's ridiculous what he's doing.
He's just phenomenal.
He's just saying, come on then. Like, I've seen him a few games at times in games, and it's from the halfway line in the first half. He's like, I'm going to beat you all.
Sorry, what's his name?
Kvaratskhelia, but he's also known as Kvaradona.
Is that right?
Yeah,
is that good?
Yeah. But he's one of those players.
Kvaratskhelia.
But he's one of those players. Like, I think you can probably maybe kind of tell he hasn't come up through that academy system, because although like obviously like you watch some of the football these elite teams play and it is incredible, but it's very ordered, it's very structured, and he doesn't. He's got the socks rolled down around the ankles, he's got these skinny legs, and he just gets the ball, runs at people, and sometimes he'll run down a blind alley, sometimes he'll run and he'll smash it into the side net, but every time he gets on the ball, like he's one of those, it's the old cliche, gets the crowd off their seats.
It can't be better tonight. Best. Yeah, you tonight.
I done a few step overs.
You did,
and I had to post it. It was
somewhere between Kvaratskhelia and Paddy McClough.
They don't call them step overs. They call them falling over the ball.
My ears so that I said that.
Lollipops.
But no, I mean, it can't be better. George Best. I mean, the goal George Best scored against Sheffield United, where he dribbled past about 7 people, but he had to dribble past about 7 balls.
Exactly. Yeah. But the thing is about these guys, what did we miss? Think about all the goals we've not seen. Because there's no, like, they're in an area not long after, not long after, well, probably maybe 3 live games a season. Yeah. Internationals, the FA Cup final, the odd prestige
guys,
match.
Like Yashin that played behind the Iron Curtain and all that. People would only see them at a World Cup. And
I'm going to mention David Provan again. I don't know why it's
David Provan.
David Provan. But David Provan gave another great story about George Best, and he said it was when George Best was at Hibs and Celtic were playing him in the semi-final of League Cup, I think it was. And he says you could smell the alcohol of George Best, really. You see, and he could hardly move, but the ball came to him, and just with one wee swivel, one wee turn, he took out 3 Celtic players. Just real talent.
Majestic.
And he had it waiting on the right back, who was Alan Snedden, who eventually signed for Celtic and was a pal of Davy Province. So he passed it. Alan Snedden's rooted to the spot, doesn't know anything about how he overlapped, doesn't know anything about it. And he said he just turned around to Davy Province. George Best said to him, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here.
It's funny because my first stuff with George Best would be seeing him on A Question of Sport, you know, when I was a wee boy. He used to always be on A Question of Sport. And my dad thought it was hilarious one time because it was a Guess Who It Is photo thing, and it was clearly a white English cricketer, and he shouted Dwight York. You know? And again, you know, we just don't get stuff like that on telly anymore, don't we not?
Can I ask something about sports writers, but in Scotland?
Yes. I mean, I might not answer it, but you can ask, yeah.
Why do they all support Hamilton, Kilmarnock, you know, provincial clubs? Why do you not get any, like James Traynor, Airdrie fan, you know, come on.
I think we know the answer to that question, because they don't actually support these teams.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I mean, partly, I genuinely do support Kilmarnock. You can go, you know, but you know, but the reason I said it because there's no point in me trying to pretend I don't support Kilmarnock, right? Because people could go on my Twitter or they could see.
I can back that up. Yeah,
right. But but if I'm writing about Kilmarnock, I try and be as objective as possible. People know I'm a Kilmarnock fan, whatever. I might even be more harsh on them because I get annoyed when they're rubbish. I think the problem is that because I think you can do that, but if you come out and say I'm a Celtic fan, right, or I'm a Rangers fan, whenever you write something about the other team, people will just, because they can't escape the thought in their mind that I hate that other team, therefore it just people refuse to believe that you could be any semblance of objective. So people who do support Rangers or Celtic will just say they support someone else to try and avoid that.
Is it similar in Italy?
Yeah, in Italy, you wouldn't want to work in the media and openly say you're a Juventus fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be stigmatised because
unless you write for Tuttosport.
Yeah, Tuttosport. Yeah, there's maybe like, but Italy still supports like 6 or 7 dailies that are only talking about football, with some cycling, some F1, but yeah, sports dailies, and they still print them off, and people are still in bars, and it's kind of farcical now because like, whereas I grew up in the 1990s, we were talking about Gazzetta, Football Italia, and you get Guareno Sportivo, and it's like they were just buying the greatest players in the world. Everyone was in Serie A, but now it's like bargain basement, and they're still trying to print newspapers for players on loan.
Ian Rush going to Juventus. He just did not.
Was that a foreign country?
Yeah.
It's like living in a foreign country. I don't know about the food. Did he like the food? He missed baked beans. He's not the brightest, Ian Rush.
No, but
he missed baked beans.
He's not
when you think AC Milan went from Luther Blissett to Van Basten, Rijkaard.
Have you ever heard the conspiracy theory that when Blissett and John Barnes were playing for Watford, they thought it was John Barnes they were buying, and they sent Luther Blissett?
Is that right?
There's a similar one about Thomas
my dad said, "Man, that's true. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but he's like, it was John Barnes. Who would buy Luther Blissett? Who would buy Luther Blissett?"
You know, there was an anarchist movement in Italy that was called Luther Blissett because they said the way he played on the pitch, he was like an anarchist trying to bring down the team from the inside. So there was this anarchist movement in Italy just called Luther Blissett.
He was the brick vote, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, exactly.
So who've you got a soft spot in Italy for?
My favourite player growing up was Del Piero, so it'd be Juventus. You know, he was
Del Piero.
Yeah.
So you've got a
Bruce Springsteen there.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so he was kind of, you know, the player group, because obviously, I mean, you know yourselves, we're talking about watching Football Italia, especially if you
Alex Cleland's favourite player as well.
Yeah.
That was a Del Piero turn.
It was, yeah.
He was one at first.
I think he's still looking for the ball. But you know, if you grew up like I did watching Kilmarnock, and then you see on television these sun-drenched fields and these guys with long hair and the sideburns and the at that time full stadiums and the flares and all that, you know, it's just
I'm going to give you a wee bit of a clue how I sort of think politically. Another Italian football team I love is Livorno.
I've got a Livorno jumper, so you can probably guess how I think politically as well. But
and for my German team, St. Pauli, but Livorno. But I'm not that. I just obviously know their background, and their supporters and everything else. Who was this centre forward?
Cristiano Lucarelli.
And he just refused to move.
Yeah, he was there for. I think he went to like Russia or somewhere and then came back. But he was sort of blacklisted from the Italian national team because when he was playing for the under-21s, he scored a goal and took his shirt off. He had a Che Guevara shirt on, and people weren't very happy with that. I think Berlusconi was probably prime minister at the time and may have had something to do with it. I think he did eventually go on to play for Italy, but there was a good period where he was scoring a lot of goals for Livorno in Serie A, and he was never called up, and it was allegedly because he'd made this sort of political gesture when he scored for the under-21 team.
Yeah, like it's funny because when you obviously there's the west of Scotland has its own issues with people being maybe mixing football and religion, and it mixes like oil and water. Really, you don't have to. But in Italy, it will be political. It will be a fascist side against a left wing side, and we obviously people will
What's Lazio and Roma? Because I get the impression they're both appearing right wing.
Well, so Lazio traditionally the sort of more right wing, and Roma traditionally were quite left wing. But I mean, would be here all night. But you get into the whole thing about
it's very convoluted.
The ultras and who controls the different bits of the. It's not like here if you have. The Green Brigade or whatever, and it's just like this is the fact they have all these different ultra groups and they battle for control of who's going to be in control of the curva where they sit. And so I think Roma was sort of the ones who are preeminent now are more of a right wing persuasion than
and they're unified in one respect. They all hate the police. If you go to an Italian football match, the fans are often fighting with each other and the police. It's like I mean, I'll be consistent with you. I've been to before with Maradona was the San Paolo. Maradona, to give you his influence, we were talking about there. And in Italy, there used to be a law whereby you had to be dead for 5 years before anything could be named after you, and they changed it as soon as Maradona died, so they could call him the Stadium Diego Maradona.
That's right, the Diego Maradona Stadium.
So I was in what is now the Maradona behind the curva with my friend Franco from Sarno, who was an absolute crackpot. And behind me, people were selling crack and stuff like that, and there was barbecues. Wow.
Right, we're getting to the end of this because it's a quick hour, right?
I've got one last.
We should do predictions though.
Yeah, we've got to definitely do predictions.
Right. I'm not going to say Manchester City, Inter Milan. Can I just ask you one final question?
Yeah, you go.
7-0 in Milan.
You heard it first here.
Who was a better manager, Lippi or Saki?
I would say. That's such a good question.
I suppose it probably depends on.
If you first.
Saki, I think, was more influential. I think you'd say in terms of the way that the famous that Milan defence and the offside trap they played and the kind of zonal marking, and he definitely had more of an influence on the way the game's played now. But his sort of run of success was relatively brief. Obviously, he won those 2 European Cups back to back. He won the title. But
if you're talking about the Italian national team as well,
exactly. Yeah, and Lippi, obviously, he had two successful spells at Juventus. McKay only won the Champions League once. We got to 3 finals in a row. He got to a final in his second spell. He won the World Cup with Italy. So
it's a bit like you comparing Brian Clough and Alex Ferguson. Saki being like Clough. Although. Obviously, nothing can compare to taking Derby County to a semi-final European Cup and then Nottingham Forest to 2. But in a sense, Milan at the time where Berlusconi bought them had just been relegated for their own match fixing issue, and they were a Serie B club,
which is a big thing in match fixing. I mean, they do that match fixing. The Italians then went and won 82 World Cup and put out one of the best sides.
Paolo Rossi was banned before that World Cup as well.
Bet one of the best sides I've ever seen, Brazil, 82.
Yeah, Serginho might have something to do with it. They had the greatest team ever, and they basically had one of the worst centre forwards ever, that Brazil team. It was a strange thing. I think it's more a case of you'd go for Marcello Lippi for longevity, but that Grande Milan, I do think his Milan team with Van Basten, Rijkaard, I think if you play football with their rules, pass back, obviously you can keep it back and pick it up, offside different, physicality different. You could tackle from behind. If you were just to play football at their rules, I don't think you can beat them. I think like when they beat Steaua Bucharest by 4 in that final, and they were just frightening. And for me, Van Basten, it's such a shame he had to retire at 28 because Van Basten he's like a baroque monument to football. He could do like some of the goals he could score left foot, right. I seen him score a hat trick once, overhead kick from the edge of the box, flying header. He was just like, what a wonderful player.
Did you ever see CR9? the real Ronaldo.
I'm not in the flesh, but obviously I watched him growing up, and he was another one. I mean, he was obviously a very good player after his knee injuries. I mean, he won the World Cup with Brazil and he scored all those goals, but before that, he was unplayable, just big, strong,
the documentary
skillful.
on him was good as well.
It was, yeah.
The only player I remember watching and thinking when he got the ball at the halfway line, he can score here.
Yeah.
Consistently thought, well, he can just turn.
We've
around
talked
and
a
say,
lot about
"Let's
the
go."
pitches. There's that famous Inter game in Russia. I mean, if you can find it on YouTube, and he's in that grey kit and it's snowing and the pitch.
That looks like something at a Rocky IV, that.
Oh, it does. Like the pitch, I mean, it looks like a ploughed field, and he's getting it and he's just twisting, turning.
Training
going past
montage.
people. Yeah.
So I've got 7-0 into Milan.
7-0
into Milan.
2-1 into Milan.
I'm going to go one each, and I think it will go yesterday, and I think Inter will sneak it only because Man City are so powerful, but I think
It's funny none of us are saying City. Like we're all.
It's got they've never won it before as well.
This one because like
the scary thing for me is how good that Josh Stones is. I hate to say it. They talk about other players, but I mean, it's
the whole Man City
is it
team.
Josh Stones?
John
Stones.
But I think the Italian.
See, I hate them that much.
I think
I think Inter are better than
strikers-
Manchester United, right? Like right now,
No, it wouldn't be hard.
especially when you look at who Inter have got in the final third and in the middle of the park, and then they're relatively strong at the back just now. But if Man City hit that level, they hit second half against Bayern Munich at home and second half against Real Madrid as well. Then but I've seen them play a lot of times, and they don't always hit that level. And now everyone's saying, as I said, the English media basically says, "Well, that's it, you've won."
yeah, that's
And I think there is a psychological burden that comes with everyone assuming that you've won.
Yep.
And I think Inter are going to fight, and I think it's going to be hot in Istanbul, and it's going to be it could get attritional for a while. I wouldn't be surprised if there's no goal in the first half. It's just
is Lukaku
1-1
fit?
maybe.
Is Lukaku fit? Is he even playing?
He's missed a lot of the season, but he's sort of come back into a bit of form toward the end of the season. And Lautaro Martinez, who'll be playing up front with him,
Martinez is. They're both of them together frightening, I think. And I think that's.
To call it Lula.
What about yourself?
I think 1-1. All I say is I think it will be. I think the game will be even after 90 minutes. And then after that, we could see penalties. That would be a prediction, I would say.
See, I could see it going either way. I think if Man City score early and get their tails up, you could see them getting a big score.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we saw them against Real Madrid. They can do that to any team. But Inter, I mean, Simone Inzaghi is a cup specialist. They do have weapons in the final third. You know they'll have been really prepared for this. Whereas Man City obviously had to prepare for that Man United game. Inter don't really have anything to play for in the league at this point. I do think Man City probably will get there in the end.
Voice of reason.
This will be a treble as well, won't it?
Yeah, well,
The only thing, but not as good as Manchester United treble. The only thing I would say about Inzaghi as a manager, I was reliably informed that Neil Lennon's unbeaten against him.
right, well, yeah, that is true. That is true, yeah.
That's on his headstone.
Right, okay, we're going to finish off. And before we finish off, and this will be an on-the-spot kind of question. Mental health, because this is a mental health kind of podcast, even though we're talking about football, what do you do, and this is, if you're going to give anybody any advice about their mental health, what's the first thing you do to make yourself happy? It's quite an easy question. What do you do in the morning to get up? Have you got a certain... Because this is how this podcast started on your morning routine. This is how it started, right? And then it became, right, I'm going to interview people based on what their morning routines were and how they start their day. Because when people watch this, they're going to go, I don't do that. And I could maybe do that. So is there anything that you can share?
As someone who in their early 20s went into a reality TV show, and when I was going through the process, production assistants and various people would say to me, "You do realise they'll be talking about this to you in 30 years' time, this will be a burden, a ball." And they were painting the worst case scenarios, psychologists, when you were going through it. But you're just young and you're thinking about the birds you can shag, so you don't really what the fuck's this guy talking about? Fast forward 10 years later and you've been up to stuff. Fuck what I always say.
I'm going to have to clip this bit out. This is the end. And the guy says, you need to watch this.
I always say, thank fuck I'd done it just before camera phones became massive, because I would probably be in Guantanamo Bay for the stuff I was doing in London. So I'd done all the cliche things, and I was hanging around with people who Well, maybe like you would have called them liggers that just went to the openings of a tin of paint back in the day, and I was living a bad lifestyle, taking classes, all that stuff in my 20s. So I did crash, and what I would say you have to do is like, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. So you have to just break the repetition. Like a repetitious lifestyle is going to lead to, if you do the same thing every day, regardless if you think it's a healthy obsession, it's eventually going to get to the point where I think that'll lead to you having negative thoughts. And like, I don't have a panacea, and I have no design for life, because I'm in no position to lecture anyone, but it would just be simple things like stop giving yourself such a hard time, and just like trying to be thankful for, like, now I used to be materialistic, I used to be the kind of cliche stereotype of a person, and now it's just like, can I make a bit of Lego with my daughter? You know, it's just really simple things like that.
So just like a simple kind of gratitude of.
I told you the day we did do a model of the Parkhead Forge for a school project.
And it is actually Parkhead Forge. We done it.
Yeah, and hopefully it does look like the Parkhead Forge, and not one of like the pyramids right now in ruins, but just wee things like that, and you just think, like, you just need to make small things the big things.
Good.
Paul, can I just say they're bringing Big Brother back? Maybe we should get some application forms.
Yes.
I tell my mental health, because I've not got long left.
We've run out of time. And the only reason I'm going to say this, they're also bringing back Deal or No Deal, and this is for Owen, who watches the show, right? I'm not Owen. Deal or No Deal's come back, and there's a thing that Stephen Mulhern, who's going to take it on, because it's no Edmonds, and he says Bush, right? So this is for Owen Bush, and that'll finish it today.
Wacker.
I would go for Philip Schofield. That's another story.
Thursday play night.
Play Deal or No Deal.
That's it.
That helps your mental health.
Right, guys, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you very much.
Thank you for the DMs. And
yes, no, thank you so much. And again, I know you're a busy man, so thank you so much. And also to Gaby.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks so much. It was a good chat.
Yeah, well, enjoyed that.
Good luck tomorrow night.
No, thanks. Cheers.
Yes, good luck tomorrow night.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you.
And I think your Instagram is private, so you'll be getting a wee request off.
Yeah, no, that's fine. There's nothing salacious on it.
Hopefully I'll see a wee bit of a word.
Aye, maybe. Right.